Good evening. I'm Anna Musey, Executive Director of the Driehaus Museum. We are so happy to be with you in your homes live from the drawing room. Now, we did a little pre-recording to keep everyone safe and spread out during the production process, so we are actually almost live. But we did our best with cutting-edge technology that this old home was once known for to bring us all together like we were back in the good old days before March. The galleries are just not the same without you, but please come see us at driehausmuseum.org through our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channels. Until we can open the doors and welcome you back inside, we'll be offering clever ways to bring you into our wonderful mansion from Chicago's Gilded Age, built to be a retreat from the outside world in 1883, just as it was, filled with friends, family, and an immersion in the arts and culture of the day, and sometimes an interesting cocktail. I would like to begin our program with a toast to you, our museum family and friends, with our best wishes for your safety and good health. Put your feet up, raise a glass, and I will turn it over to Patrick Donley, our partner and mad musical genius behind this program. Take it away, Patrick.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the drawing room here at the Driehaus Museum in Chicago. I'd like to thank the Driehaus Museum for giving me the distinct pleasure of playing this piano, and thank you for tuning in and joining us. The piece that I just played was the second movement from Beethoven's Grand Sonata Pathétique, and the sonata was published in 1799 and was instantly popular. It remains to this day one of Beethoven's most celebrated piano works, and the movement I played has been used as a theme song in numerous contexts since. The main theme has been reworked and performed by artists from Billy Joel to the band Kiss to even Schrader, the Peanuts cartoon. Interestingly, the opening of this theme is nearly identical to a passage in the slow movement of Mozart's Piano Sonata number 14. Which was published 14 years earlier. You could call it piracy, or perhaps rather a tribute to Mozart, whose work Beethoven studied deeply and emulated in many ways. I'm going to play another piece now before we visit Greg Shutter's for a cocktail, and then we will take a walk around the drawing room with the museum's curator, Catherine Shoddick. I want to play a variety tonight, so the next piece is going to be one of Scott Joplin's, entitled Heliotrope Bouquet. Among Joplin's compositions, this is a unique one in that the composition credit is shared by Joplin with Louis Chauvin of St. Louis, Missouri. It is said that Joplin heard Chauvin play the first two strains of this piece while visiting a friend in Chicago in 1906, and completed it later with two of his own strains, publishing it the following year. Those of you familiar with Scott Joplin's compositional style might form your own opinion as to whether there is a detectable difference between the first two and the last two themes.
Hi, and welcome to a virtual toast to the Gilded Age. I'm Greg Shutters, and I head up retail strategy at the Driehaus Museum store. When I'm not doing that, I'm a cocktail enthusiast with a specific interest in historic recipes. As you might know, Samuel Nickerson, who built the home that now houses the Driehaus Museum, made his initial fortune in distilling alcohol. Tonight we're going to mix up a couple cocktails that were popular during Mr. Nickerson's time, and I'll be using some great ingredients made locally by Evanston's Few Spirits, one of the museum's wonderful program partners. Few was founded in 2011 and is an acronym for Frances Elizabeth Willard, the president of the Evanston-based Women's Christian Temperance Union in the 19th century. She fought for national prohibition of alcohol, and her influence was so great that even after national prohibition was repealed, Evanston remained completely dry until 1972. Few Spirits overturned remaining century-old prohibition laws to become Evanston's first distiller of grain spirits within the city limits. Okay, let's make some cocktails. First, we're going to make an old-fashioned, but probably not the kind of old-fashioned you're familiar with. Back in the early 1800s, there was only one type of cocktail. That would be made with a spirit, any type of spirit, plus sugar, water, and bitters. Mixed drinks without bitters had other types of names: slings, punches, sours, and so on. As time wore on and new types of cocktails were invented, like Manhattans or martinis, cocktails made this old way simply became known as old-fashioned cocktails. Today we'll be making a variation on that old-fashioned called the improved gin cocktail. In the 1800s, an improved cocktail meant that it was a cocktail on the standard old-fashioned template, but dressed up with a few dashes of liqueur and a piece of lemon peel. And we're using gin because back in the 1800s, Chicago was actually known for its gin. The H.H. Schubert distillery in Chicago was a contemporary of Samuel Nickerson's distillery and was one of the most renowned American gins of its time. The gin they made was probably not the kind you think of when you think of gin. The type of gin that Schubert made, and the type of gin most popular in America at the time, was Dutch-style gin, as opposed to the English-style gin that we're most familiar with today. Dutch gin is actually a lot more like whiskey, and can come in both barrel-aged and unaged versions. So for our cocktail today, we're going to use this really unique barrel-aged gin from Few Spirits. Now, even if you don't like gin, it's a great one to try because it has a lot of whiskey-like characteristics. If you can't find Few barrel-aged gin, feel free to use whiskey for an improved whiskey cocktail, and brandy for an improved brandy cocktail, and so on. So to make the cocktail, add a few dashes of bitters along with ice to a mixing glass. Now, I'm using Bogart's bitters from Bitter Truth because it's modeled on one of the most popular 19th century bitters. But you can also use Angostura bitters that are available at most liquor and grocery stores. So just add a couple healthy dashes there. And then you're going to want to add about a teaspoon of maraschino liqueur. For this step, you can also use an orange liqueur like orange curacao, Cointreau, or triple sec. So just grab that, add a nice teaspoon there. Perfect. Then add a teaspoon of simple syrup. Now I make this by combining 2 parts sugar to 1 part water over heat until it's dissolved. I'm using raw Demerara sugar because it has more flavor, but use whatever kind of sugar you have. So just pop that top off. This nice looking decanter. Give yourself a little teaspoon. Just add that in. Okay. Then add 2 ounces of our Few gin. Stir to get the cocktail nice and chilled. And then you're going to want to add a little bit of absinthe to your cocktail glass and roll it around. If you don't have absinthe, you could use another anise liqueur, or you can just omit this step. Well, that looks nice and blended, nice and chilled. I have absinthe in this little dasher top here. really all you want is a little bit so you can just coat the outside of the glass and give it a nice aroma. All right, and strain your cocktail into the glass. Then you're going to want a piece of lemon peel. You can use a vegetable peeler, and you want to avoid the white pith inside. So just get a nice big old piece of lemon peel. Twist it over the glass to release the oils. Rub around the rim. And then drop it in as a garnish. And that is the improved gin cocktail. Cheers!
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Shoddick and I'm the curator here at the Driehaus Museum. Tonight our concert is coming to you from the Nickerson Drawing Room. In the 19th century, the drawing room was a feminine space. After dinner, the women would withdraw to this room to play cards, or like we're doing tonight, enjoy some music. The men would retire to the smoking room for cigars, brandy, and conversations thought to be unsuitable around distinguished ladies. Eventually, the men would rejoin the women in this room. The seating in the drawing room is original to the house. Mrs. Nickerson and her guests would have sat in these exact chairs, designed for the drawing room by the highly sought-after Gilded Age interior designer George Shasty. However, they were hand-carved by August Fiedler. Fiedler had his own architecture and interior design firm in Chicago, and he was hired by Shasty to finish many elements of the Nickerson mansion, such as the parquet flooring throughout the house, the woodwork in the dining room, and the stair rail of our grand staircase. Fiedler hand-carved these chairs from satinwood to match the rest of the room's interior. The design incorporates Grecian sphinxes in the armrests, and their wings span the sides of the chairs. The Shasty chairs are just part of the great design in this room. Take, for example, this Tiffany lily lamp, or pond lily lamp as Tiffany would refer to it. It's called the lily lamp because of the bronze base in the shape of lily pads and flower stems, and the febrile glass shades in the form of lilies. This lamp, first created in 1902, is considered a milestone in lighting design. The recent development of electricity at the end of the 19th century allowed for this new lamp design with the form of drooping lilies, as opposed to lamps with vertical flowers, which were previously necessary due to the use of gas. Styles of Tiffany's lily lamp range from a lamp with a single lily to a 49 lily light chandelier. It is one of the most successful products created by Tiffany. We know from historic photographs that the Nickersons had a modest, upright piano in the drawing room. It has since been replaced by another instrument of the period, the stunning Chickering & Sons piano that you have been hearing tonight. Patrick will tell us a little bit more about this instrument before we go back to the music.
The piano that I'm playing is a 7-foot Chickering Grand. Chickering & Sons was founded in 1823 in Boston and was the first major piano manufacturer in the U.S. It was also the most popular piano maker until Steinway surpassed it in the mid-19th century. In the 19th century, the piano's design was still evolving, and Jonas Chickering's background in both cabinet making and blacksmithing led him to create the first one-piece cast iron frame for a piano, winning him the gold medal at the Great Exhibition of 1851 in London. The iron frame made the instrument more durable and improved its ability to stay in tune. And in fact, the great composer and pianist Liszt was known to be a big fan of Chickering because these pianos could withstand the toll of his virtuosic performances. I'm not going to play a piece by Liszt tonight, but I will tease a little. Some of you might know what comes next. So the piano was not only extremely well built, but it also rests in a beautiful satin wood case. Chickering was known for using luxurious woods in their piano cases, and satinwood, originally from East India and Sri Lanka, was popular with luxury pianos because of its sheen. The piano's legs are made of Makassar ebony from Indonesia, and the 5 ebony pillars in the design echo the 5 black keys of the keyboard. Around the case and on the lid is a hand-painted floral decoration, including a ribbon with text from John Milton's poem L'Allegro, which speaks to the joys of music. It reads, "And ever against eating cares, lap me in soft Lydian airs, married to immortal verse." Let's embrace this sentiment in times of struggle and uncertainty, allowing music to calm and ease our cares. This next piece was written by the American pianist Willie the Lion Smith in the 1930s and is entitled Echoes of Spring. I hope you enjoy. Before we visit Greg Shutters for one more cocktail demonstration, I'll play a piece written by Franz Schubert from his 6 Moments musicaux. This was published in 1828 in Vienna and is the Allegro Moderato in F minor.
Taylor, and it was a nationwide fad in the summer of 1900. Hi, and welcome back to a virtual toast to the Gilded Age at the Driehaus Museum. Next, we're going to make a refreshing tall drink you can enjoy as the weather gets a little warmer. This drink is called a Mamie Taylor, and it was a nationwide fad in the summer of 1900. It was invented in upstate New York in 1898 and was named for a contemporary actress, Mamie Taylor. The fad died down after 1900, but you could still see it on cocktail menus and recipe guides leading up to and even after Prohibition. Now, the Mamie Taylor is awfully similar to a modern-day Moscow Mule, but it uses Scotch whiskey instead of vodka. Now, if that seems weird to you, don't worry. Scotch and ginger are a really great combination, and the end result is a wonderfully complex and well-balanced drink. Even people who don't like Scotch find that ginger takes a little bit of the edge off and really like the Mamie Taylor. It's a very simple drink to create. First, start off with a tall Collins glass or juice glass, about 10 to 12 ounces, and fill it with ice. Then add 2 ounces of whiskey, and here we're using Fuse Spirit's really great Scotch-style American single malt whiskey. Two ounces in there. And then you're going to want to use the juice of half of a lime. Fresh lime is obviously best, but if you only have bottled lime juice, that's about half an ounce. Cut that in half. And just put the juice right into the drink. And then fill to the top with ginger ale. Now, the ginger ale that they had in 1900 was both sweeter and spicier than the big ginger ale brands you find today. So I like to use Werner's ginger ale, which is much closer to this traditional style and has been around since the 1860s. If you can't get Werner's in your area, a nice spicy ginger beer will do. And that's the Mamie Taylor. Just top it right off there. Perfect. While we've been closed to the public, I've been working to add new items to the museum store that celebrate the history of Gilded Age cocktails, which is an important part of the Nickerson story. Soon we'll be able to provide everything you'll need to make these cocktails at home, 19th century style. On behalf of all of us at the Driehaus Museum, we miss you and hope to see you as soon as it's safe. Cheers.
We have time for just a few more pieces tonight here in the drawing room. This next one was written by George Gershwin in 1926 for the musical OK. It has stood the test of time and is among the most commonly performed jazz standards. Despite being commonly interpreted as a ballad, the tune was originally intended as a medium tempo swing. It turns out that in the 1920s, George Gershwin himself recorded playing this piece as a solo. So the rendition I am about to play is based off of that recording. Any Gershwin fans will certainly be familiar with this one. Here is Someone to Watch Over Me. Well, that about wraps up our program for this evening. Thank you so much to all who have joined in and watched us from home. And a special shout out to Jeff, Anna, Alex, our little crew here. If you'd like to support, your donations are certainly appreciated. You can also support by liking the Richard H. Driehaus Museum on Facebook and by visiting patdonley, DONLEY.com and signing up for my mailing list. This way you can keep up with future events. I'd like to end on a light note and play something most of you will know. Feel free to sing along, and if you're out of tune, don't worry, we won't hear you. With a nod to Frank Sinatra, here's the timeless classic, Fly Me to the Moon.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Oh, I did mess up at the end a little bit.
Why?
I switched to the wrong camera for a second.
This is